recruit people, you guys. That was good.
All the time. Not like the borough, but all the time.
Don't want to have controversial things all the time.
And you know what? Just the fact they want to go home at midnight is something else.
You can start earlier. Five o'clock.
I read it out and then, yeah.
I can't be midnight.
It would go that late
No one
anyway.
could, yeah.
But I was gonna be
That's more you have to
talking
listen
my
to,
own
yeah.
report, But then we'll ask for public testimony. We'll call for public. Hello, hey, we're going back on the air now. Thank you. Okay. We're back to order. The time is 40. We're going to continue. I'm going to wrap up communications from the mayor to let you know that last week was a real busy week for me on behalf of what I did for the city. And I had to be at the ordination for the Catholic Bishop of North Alaska. It's the largest diocese in North America, 409,000 square feet. There are 1,800 people in attendance. It was at the Carlson Center. That's how large it was. And he's like the sixth ordinary, what we call ordinary bishop in the history of bishops of Alaska, Northern Alaska. So that's Bishop Stephen Makawa. He's a Dominican priest who was ordained. And from the Vatican City, which is a city-state, the Papal Nuncio, which is really the diplomat on behalf of the Pope, was here from Washington, D.C. And he's a cardinal, Cardinal Pierre. So there were many people from the diocese past, many of the bishops from the past were there. So that's how I started out Thursday. On Thursday evening, I found myself down at the borough. Many issues at the borough. The one that we will bring up later is a resolution we have, 2316, in reference to how we hold our local elections in early October, which when we get to that, we'll discuss it properly, but not at this point. But that was one of those things that even when I left at 11:30, that's been pushed for this next meeting on Thursday. That I'll make an announcement then when we get to that part in the meeting. Friday, I was in with Danny, our Director of City Services, and I went ahead and did an early start. Did we kind of like cover what we're going to do for the Public Works and Utilities Department for the budget, things of that nature? And then went to lunch. Saturday was a very large day because we had the funeral arrangements for our fire captain, our prior captain here. And help me, Chief, how does he like to be called? The second? Richard Hagan the second. Little Richard. His father, Big Richard, was Richard Sr. So he liked to be called Richard Hagan the second. That was a large event. It was huge, and it was very touching. And they came out and it showed that Richard walked with the three greatest virtues that a man can walk with: faith, hope, and charity. There's no doubt about that when I saw that, okay? So his family was there, his fellow workers from here, fellow firemen and women from all around this interior were there. So I was very happy for that. When we speak about firemen, Chief, what was the event you went to that night? Firefighters Ball. And they named the fire chief officer of the year for this whole interior. And it was our chief right here. Kudos to you, Chief, for your great leadership. And then I rested on the 7th day. So that's how that was. So if we go to now item 7, council members' questions of the mayor. Any questions? Seeing none, that's closed. We now go to item 8, citizens' comments. These are limited to 5 minutes per citizen. Does any citizen need to give comment tonight? If so,
I do have one citizen for citizens comment, Tammy Wilson.
yeah, I can imagine she did because she put her hand up. So if you'll please come in and tell us where you're from and your name, spell your last name for the clerk, please.
Thank you. My name is Tammy Wilson, Wilson. I live at 571 Canoro, North Pole. I just want to add one thing before the testimony, the reason I came tonight. My apologies as the one ordinance for moving the elections. My intent was never to move the city. That is not the decision of the borough. It's a decision of the city. But I probably should have come and just told you I had that idea in my head, but sometimes there's a lot of moving parts in my world. But that's not the reason I came. I came here tonight as a grandmother. I have two grandchildren with their parents that live on Lake Drive. About a week ago, their truck comes barreling in, and if I had not stopped my granddaughter at that moment that I did, she would be dead right now. I don't know why on Lake Drive. If you haven't been there, it's a loop, North Star. It comes off of Nicholas, and it's a loop. And thank you for whoever was on the council that they didn't open it up to another subdivision. That would have just made it worse. There's nowhere else to go but around the loop. And we've had some problems this summer, and it just seems to continue to get better. I do want to thank the police officers who do come around and talk with the kids and stuff like that and make their presence known. But for some reason, it just seems, I don't know if there's like more 16 and 17-year-olds who are driving now and don't pay attention to what it is. But the last gentleman that did, I literally went down and knocked on his door and let him know, that he was in a rush. I'm not going to share why, because it was pretty embarrassing. But anyway, and I told him I go within timing was there, God was there. I'm just going to tell you, it was that close. And he apologized, but an apology really wouldn't have meant anything, if the accident had happened. And they just happened to live as soon as you decide to turn, on the curve. And they're slow children. It's 25 miles per hour. I don't know if the speed humps or something like that would help, especially as you're coming into the neighborhood. But it's not just my grandchildren. That neighborhood has turned, how neighborhoods seem like they grow older and then they kind of rebound. This neighborhood has seemed to rebound to where there's a lot of kids on their bikes and doing other things, and even in the wintertime. So anything you can possibly do would be greatly appreciated. It's not just my own granddaughter. I don't want to see any child ever hurt. And the last thing, there was actually a young lady who decided to have a lemonade stand like right there on that corner. If you've been there, it's got kind of like a place where they've grown flowers and stuff, and you go right or you can go left. You don't have to go around the same way. The good thing people could see her, but you kind of see them like start slowing down because they saw somebody sitting there, but just as much they might not have as well. But it's really the kids on the bike trying to do it. The other thing, I don't know whether it would help or not. If you go around the curve, there used to be a stop sign. There's now just like a pole. So I don't know what happened to the stop sign. But if you're coming in and you're going right and you got kids on the bike, I mean, you just can't see around it, whatsoever. So I don't know what the answer is, but the answer isn't going to a funeral and wishing that you had said something sooner. My kids themselves would have been here tonight, but they're putting the other little ones to bed right now, which makes school much easier tomorrow. So that's all I have. And again, thank you so much for taking my testimony.
I asked you a few questions. I may have misunderstood you. Did you say things are getting better or getting worse?
Well, right now the snow helps,
Yeah.
so there's not as many kids out there. They will be once there's snow, but it just seemed this summer, it just seemed like it just kept getting worse and worse. And I would say that most of the traffic was from were from people who lived in the neighborhood. I don't think we did have like a couple days for some bizarre reason. I think maybe they were having an open house in the new subdivision because because they got to come back out the way they come. We see everybody going in, everybody going out. And so we don't know whether something was going on and they thought it cut through. And that's kind of one thing with Three Bears Open, kind of a little worried about that because it's a neighborhood right behind it. But like I said, and most of the major traffic that we're seeing are people who live there because they don't come back around.
Did you make a police report by chance?
I mean, I don't have a radar gun, so I don't know how the right son-in-law's like, he's ready to do that, but my daughter's an attorney told him that wasn't legal. So that kind of bad on their own family. But I mean, if there's something we can do to record it, I am more than happy to sit out there and do it. I mean, I have no, I don't have no shyness. So
Yes.
whatever it kind of takes to be able to do that. But no, we didn't make a police report because again, I didn't have any proof, right? We saw it happen, but we didn't have any proof what the extra speed limit was.
Well, anytime you feel compelled, you call my police chief or his lieutenant if you feel necessary. Because when we start chronicling this, then we really know we have a problem. We can't ignore that there's been a report, correct?
But the police officers here are amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, they come through at Halloween. Literally, they were making stops this summer every once in a while just to say hi, kind of make that friendly. And I do appreciate that. And I think we used to have a police officer that lived in that loop, and that seemed to help, but I don't know what happened to them.
They're living in other loops now. They
Darn.
are, yeah. But I'm saying that that's one thing that we try to be responsive to those kind of needs. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And they are
Anyone
very
have
good.
questions for Ms. Wilson? Ms. Wilson.
Ms. Wilson, thank you for coming. Do you know if there's a neighborhood watch in that neighborhood?
We watch our own kids and grandkids, but I don't think of an official neighborhood watch, no.
Would you maybe think that that might be a good idea because you get people involved in it and communication going between people and stuff like that? I know it helped us when we were in Florida and our neighborhood had people like that come in. We had our block captains put out the word that we are now watching each other. So
I know Fairbanks did a big push, and had people actually come up here, with the signs and everything and how you would actually make that happen. I don't think it ever hit North Pole for whatever reason, but I think Fairbanks was having a lot of drug problems at that time that kind of moved that in to it. But it might even be, I haven't talked to that group for a long time, so it might be worth seeing if they're still involved in the city of Fairbanks.
maybe that would be something we can do in our council and assembly retirement. Maybe go push for that.
Like I said, one door closes, another door opens.
Yeah, Ms. Black.
What time did this incident take place and have you noticed that it's a consistent time frame, or have you noticed if it's different time frames?
It was around 5 o'clock. Person had just
Okay.
gotten off of work right after 5 o'clock. It is definitely worse, around the 5 to 6 hour. The other one is Saturdays. And I don't know if everybody's just kind of in a hurry and just doing their own thing, trying to get their, kids or others from one place or the other. But usually in the evening hour, it's between like that 5 and 6 o'clock.
Is that the
Hour.
same thing on Saturday as well, or is it just
Saturdays,
different times on Saturday?
pretty much the afternoons
Okay, after
Kinda-
12 or after 3?
after 12. I'd say probably like between like 1 and 4.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Don't have anybody signed up online or here.
I'm asking anyone else to talk to Ms. Wilson.
No, they're really go-getters. I mean, they're
Yeah.
keepers. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now, Madam Clerk, anyone else for public testimony?
I have nobody else signed up online or here on the roster.
Seeing no one else, we now call the council citizen comments closed. We now go to department heads, and I think Mr. Danny Wallace wants to go first. He's sitting in the hot seat. It's up to you, Danny.
Bring up the community survey. And just one thing to, at the beginning of this, if we do have signage down within the city, we can have the public works folks look at that and then replace that if it's a place where a sign should be and it's not there. So I wrote that down. We'll look at that. Everyone, as you know, my name's Danny Wallace. I'm the Director of City Service, and for my comments tonight, I'll be presenting the results of the community survey. I spoke earlier to this with the mayor about when to present the results of the survey, and it was recommended that we do it when the new council members are sworn in, so we can actually have some of the departing council members to listen to this, and also so we can have the new ones present. So go ahead and hit next slide. So during the last month of summer, we conducted a community survey. This was done with the help of our municipal intern, Owen Lau, and he conducted it from 7 to 25 August. The intent, as is shown on this slide, was to collect residents' opinions regarding how the city provides services and also how they see policing as policing is done here in the city of North Pole. And everyone should have a copy of this in their packet, so I'm not going to read off the slide. But we did use different approaches. We took online surveys, but at the same time, we also mailed a flyer to almost everyone within city limits.
Madam Clerk, could you please expand that picture there, because it's blurred? Thank you.
But, and everyone has a copy of that, that survey. This is a copy, everyone has a copy of the survey up there.
Larger for me? I don't know if it'll allow you to, but I appreciate it if you could. Thank you.
And this slide shows the survey itself. Again, we tried to keep it as short as possible. If you'll look on here, there's less than 20 questions and many of them are demographic related. Go ahead and hit the next slide. But I did want to give everyone an idea of what the, and go on down to slide number, the next, if you want to go to presentation mode. Presentation mode. Okay, and these slides are going to keep going. Okay, so one introductory thing about demographics, and you'll see it in the packet, but I didn't want to take time to go through all the demographics issues, except for there are 3 key points. Most of the individuals who answered the survey lived in the city 8 years or less. Most of the individuals were over 29 years old, so most of the folks 95% of the folks that took the survey were 30 years and older, and almost 60% of the folks that took the survey were over 60 years. And then finally, for demographics, about 83% of the respondents were listed their race as white, and this is a little bit above the 67% that North Pole residents have reported. So again, generally on the demographics, everything except for the background information was consistent with the population here in North Pole. And again, I can expand on that if needed. So this slide here talks about we specifically asked residents of Highway Park subdivisions some direct questions about streetlights and playground equipment. And as you can see on here, 67.6% favored having streetlights in their area, where 55.9% approved of park upgrades. Again, if you look at the not applicable, certainly there are some individuals who may have answered this but are not in the area, or there's other individuals who again chose who may not have folks that are interested in those things that live in their households. Next slide, please. We asked questions about streetlights, water, and sewer infrastructure, and it's very interesting that when we asked the larger population of the city of North Pole if they want streetlights, actually 39.5% said they did not want streetlights in their neighborhoods. If the folks that answered the questions on water service, we had about, again, 35% of the respondents said that they would like water service, and 56% mentioned they would like sewer services. And of note on here, the non-applicable lines, the ones shown in orange, those folks may have already had, and they may already have water service. So again, it may be a little bit hard to vet out some of those, some of the key details. But those were the answers to the questions when we asked them about streetlights, water service, and sewer service.
I have a question, Danny, real quick. Have you ran a report to see if there's a correlation between all of the yeses versus all of the nos, if they're doing the same votes, or a correlation with, well, they want to do this streetlights? There's correlation data points that we can look at, saying if people want more service overall, or they just want specifics. Does that make sense? If there's correlation data between all of the yeses.
Right. If they're saying, yes, I want more city services, or if
Yeah.
they're saying, you know, as a group, as an individual respondent, versus whether they're saying, no, I just don't want anything to change within the city of North Pole.
Mhm.
We can look at that.
You might not want to. Yeah, don't worry about it.
No, it's all right.
Don't worry about it. You got more pressing matters.
Okay, go ahead and hit the next slide. Some of the other questions we asked were about economic concerns. And again, even though the first one is not about economic concerns, the other two are satisfaction with parks and trails within the city, 57.7%. While we had only 7.6% mentioning they were only a little bit satisfied. And then the cost of living certainly seems to concern citizens. 59% agreed that was something that was very important to them, very concerning to them. and 64% were concerned about inflation. Go ahead and hit next slide. Okay, the next portion covers some of the questions that we asked about the police department. We did speak to Chief Dutra and his staff about the questions, the list of questions, and we did pull these from other surveys that had already been done for police departments. So these are it's a set of questions that are routinely used to gauge citizens' views of policing. And again, overall, residents do feel safe in their neighborhoods and in the community, and additionally, they see the police department as respectful, fair, and responsive. Next slide. Residents are also satisfied based on these questions with police interactions, and overall, they seem to trust the North Pole Police Department, and they're satisfied with the department overall. One thing they did that we did find as a result of this survey is that the communication, certainly from the individuals that took this survey, communication can be improved. And I may not have said it before, we had about 160 individuals that took this survey. So really our response rates were fairly high for our survey. But again, this is the second half of the police questionnaire. And then the last slide here, as those of you that have looked at the survey, residents were asked from quite a few. There was almost 20 different items on a list, and they said what are the key problems that they're concerned about within the community. And the top three there that you can see, traffic issues, drug abuse, and theft were the three areas of concern. And green on here does not indicate good; it just indicates a difference in the respondent levels. Next slide. Okay, this last slide shows the breakout of written comments, and again, those of you that have the survey handy, there was a big block at the end of it that talks about, do you have any additional comments, which actually you can gain a lot from those areas. And we did an analysis of which areas these fell into. So the 5 areas there, police and safety, infrastructure, miscellaneous, economic, and city services. Those were the different topic areas for the individual responses. There were responses that ranged from snow removal to other comments, positive comments about parks and recreation. And I have a copy of those, and if anyone's interested in specifics on those, I could show you those. But again, we had about 59 individual comments in that block, and we've got those documented. The whole intent of this survey was to guide decisions in the future. It's certainly not a perfect survey, but it does shed some lights, and it did answer some questions that we want to know. We really did want to know, hey, in Highway Park, what is the way forward? What do the individuals what do they see as the future of that area? Again, some of the concerning things that the residents have about both city services and then policing. But the bottom line is that most individuals, at least based on our survey and the feedback that we got, most individuals are satisfied with what happens within the city, how the city performs, and how the city is policed. And I'd be welcome for any questions right now.
Thank you, Mr. Danny. I'm going to ask you, going to what you discerned about parks, because we're working with the playground equipment company. They should have a final to us by Thursday for a proposed upgrade of Highway Park. What did you find out that this survey does for you as far as the quality of that park?
Well, the survey asked, again, the question on this was whether or not they wanted to see improvements, and there was some support for improvements. But the survey didn't dig into the quality of the actual park itself. Those of you that know Highway Park, you've been there, and we've talked about it in this forum before. Again, much of the playground equipment is it's dated. You could argue that it's unsafe and it does need to be replaced. So I would say that experience, and also with the historic effort that has gone on in that area, there is a need for playgrounds there. We've had folks that have actually approached us about the playground that's there, that they do use it and they would like it to see upgraded. So that, along with the comments here, definitely certainly support changes to Highway Park and certainly upkeep of the parks that we have. We did get positive comments about Terry Miller Park too. That wasn't part of the survey, but on the written comments, there were some very positive things about Terry Miller Park. And those of you that drive by there, at least during school day hours or during work hours, there are a lot of kids having a lot of fun at Terry Miller Park. Highway Park isn't as visible, but certainly there are children that play over in that area too.
So we'll be ready to put forward our packet because we're striving to get a grant worth $125,000, which is almost half. It would be half of what we would intend to spend there. There's $1 million in grants, so they're probably going to be anywhere from 20,000 and not to exceed 125,000. So it could be as few as 20 grants. It could be as little as only 12. So
Right.
we'll put
So,
our best foot.
so there is again, grant money for playgrounds is hard to find, but we have found an opportunity. Our packet is due at the end of the month, and we're working on that. We're actually working to make sure we've got solid figures for how much it would cost. So this is for Highway Park. The way forward, my recommendation, the way forward for Terry Miller Park is a little bit different. We're still working on that. But for especially Highway Park, taking out all of the old equipment and replacing that with new equipment is something that we're pursuing right now.
You'll have that in your budget workshop,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Pictures and arrows and a paragraph, and circles and arrows pointing to beautiful pictures of that proposed park, right? Okay, thank you. Any questions for Danny? I don't see any. Thank you. Okay, appreciate it. Now you want Chief Dutra to come up next?
Evening, council, member of the public. Yeah, I wanted to come up second after Danny took some shots at me on this survey, but nothing he did. But so anyway, on the survey, you notice that the extent that the police department communicates with the community and crime and safety issues, and the other there was more red and orange in there than I would like to see. So I take that to heart. I can always improve, and I saw it. We actually went over these questions before, so I was interested to see what the perception of the public was on these issues. So I'm glad to see it. Just at least it gives me an idea of what people are thinking. I think we do a pretty good job at that. We do present crime stats to the council on a monthly basis, at least on a month before. So we've been doing that for many years now, and it is available to folks now that we're on YouTube and such. It's easier for people to get those access to that. So maybe we can come up with a way to do that via our website, like some other agencies do. And I'll work on that. So that's pretty interesting survey questions. And to the extent the police departments develop relationships with community members, residents, and organizations, I think we do a pretty good job at that. And that one kind of shocked me. Not sure what the metric is on that or why folks don't see. Maybe we don't do enough Facebook posts, but we do a lot of interactions with our residents and affairs, and we post them regularly. So that one I'm gonna have to work on, try to figure out why that is the case. But I have noticed this, and I am being responsive to it, and I appreciate Danny taking on the burden for doing that, because we were going to do it, but since he was doing one, it kind of worked out that we both got to do it. So on that note, I did attend a meeting with all the senior law enforcement officials in the area with the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. And we used to do these on a regular basis, at least once a quarter, at least 3 times a year with them, and talk about our interaction with them, with law enforcement, and we had a pretty good talk about school safety and lots of the Alice. And I would like to say that I'm very proud to see that the troopers are very much involved in teaching Alice now at the schools. They have Lieutenant Roberts doing it. Of course, I call it Alice 2.0 because he's a lot younger than me, and he's a lot more interactive, and he's very, very knowledgeable at search stuff. So to have a guy like that out there teaching Alice to the community is just a win. And the fact that the school district is teaching it on a regular basis and doing scenarios with kids is a great place to be. After I know the mayor attended my Alice presentations in 2019 when we started doing this in the school district. So it's taken off, and I'm super glad to see that. So it's a big movement on that aspect. So also we had some vandalism inside the city, and They hit the police department, came around the backside of our building, spray painted a couple of the police cars. We do have some leads and stuff and some videos, but it was pretty interesting. First time I can remember anybody actually vandalizing the police department. So they also vandalized a couple of spray painted a couple businesses in town. So we got some leads working on that though. But stay tuned. We were able to get them all cleaned up, the graffiti removed, so it didn't really damage much. Right? It damaged one of the graphics on the side of the car, but that was about it. So you have your stats in front of you, and I found only one or two things that were alarming. And after doing some research, the assaults and the larceny that are listed in our total part 1 crimes are a little more elevated than I like, but those were relative to a couple factors. Yeah, we had a couple more shopliftings and some car issues, car break-ins that turned into larcenies. Sometimes these things are cyclical. We have 1 or 2 characters that move into the area that create problems for us. Spray paint, break into cars, that kind of thing. So we're getting there. We'll figure it out. But also we're being a lot more strict on our collections of stats, because I don't know if you're familiar, if you've heard, but the old UCR standard that they use, uniform crime reporting, that the FBI used for decades and decades, is now shifting over to a NIBRS. It's more of a detailed incident reporting system than it's been before. So it's not perfect, but it is certainly a better way of capturing data. And so with that comes some elevations and some data points that you normally wouldn't have with the old system. So you may start to see a few changes in those things. And I'd be happy to talk about some of these cases in specific, but there's no major crime trend going on that we can see. I mean, certainly more than we'd like, but for the most part, definitely calls for service, traffic stops, citations are up. They're out there hitting the traffic. I know we had some people come forward and testify about traffic in certain areas. I know for the North Star area there, we have run traffic data counts on that area, and they aren't outside the bell curve, so they're not any abnormal speeding. But of course, any speeding in the residential areas is bad, and I will mention it to the officers as well, just like we did the Homestead. Pay closer attention to those things, but they're out there hitting traffic a lot more than they have over the last years. You can see that clearly in the data. So, but we can never stop. It's a never-ending battle. So I will make sure I mention that to them. Drug take back is the 28th of October, 10 to 2. So if you have anybody has any unwanted prescription drugs, please turn them in at the PD.
That on a Friday, Chief?
Saturday, 10 to 2.
From what, 10 to
10 to 2.
what day was that?
That's Saturday, the 28th. And just on another note, I know to put in your notes, but the grant we normally get for the drug officer, the one who works in the Fairbanks narcotics team, that grant usually comes out to generally early in the year. We usually know by now by budget time, but the state made a mistake and didn't get the grant out to us. So they just resolicited that. So we should be applying for that and hopefully get a number before the close of our budget, which would be nice. So just stay tuned. That's all I got.
Chief, I have a question. The food drive that comes up. Do you have any idea how we're gonna be on top of our game this year? We almost made it last year, but I think what's great is the community came just that short of $100,000 as a community.
Yeah, 100.
We just came short of $36,000 as the North Pole Police Department. How are we gonna match that this year?
Costco, November 4th and 5th. I think I mentioned in the last meeting. Be there, shop, and support us, and turn your food in front. We'll be there and hopefully in large numbers. If you have groups that would like to volunteer to help us out, you can sign up with Illingsworth or myself. Just reach out to the department. We're looking for volunteers to help. So if anybody's interested.
That's a Saturday, Sunday.
Yep, Saturday, Sunday. We'll be there from open to close. And troopers are doing it the weekend before, I think. So they're gonna have
We'll have evidence what they did and what they didn't.
yeah, if they're not hiding their numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd encourage everybody to shop or spread the word. We're gonna start posting it to Facebook once we get the clearance from Costco. So
Okay.
post it up. But yes, thank you.
As a council, you're invited to participate in that. Make it worth our while, make us look good, but mostly for our community. That's a tough month for a lot of people, Thanksgiving month.
And the goal is to hit 100,000 pounds. So if we could pull in our numbers and troopers and everybody else can, we could hopefully get there. That'd be
So what do we
amazing.
spend on that counts towards that, Chief?
Sorry?
What do we spend on that counts towards that? What, is just food that we buy or
Food, yeah, you can donate online at the, we'll put it all on the Facebook shortly here. The QR code to donate directly to the food bank by cash, or bring food to the food bank on behalf of North Pole, or come to Costco, or just come to drop it off at the station. So lots of different ways to do that.
Different ways to do it.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions for Chief Dutra? Yes. Anton.
Chief, has law enforcement received any investments with discussions with the school district to gain access to CCTV?
We brought it up.
Okay.
And the superintendent was open to it, and he's willing to have those discussions further. He's gonna look into it.
Okay.
You know, he took the reins, and he's got a lot going on. So, you know, that's just one of many topics, but they were open to the discussion, and we got the support from FPD and AST at the table about how important that is. So I think the
Yeah, good.
superintendent realizes that.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you for asking.
Mr. Jacobson has a question.
Yes, in response to your survey, I would think that with Mr. Illingsworth on board, that he will be doing a lot of community outreach and communication, so that data should change with his efforts to involve the community and share, stats with them as far as crimes and activities and programs available. So I think that you already have a solution to that question.
I hope so, yeah.
This summer I did notice some very loud racing cars and motorcycles. I mean, I live over behind by the North Pole Hotel, and I could hear them racing all the way through town and all the way. I don't know if they were going to Lake or down Old Ridge, but it was loud enough that you could hear it going through town multiple times during the summer. So did your officers ever catch anyone speeding in those loud races?
I haven't looked it up, but I can certainly take a check, but nothing that off the top of my head that I know of, no.
'Cause I assume that they were probably teen drivers who like to sound loud and be fast, and especially if they're spilling over into North Star subdivision and racing around that loop, that's certainly not safe.
Yeah.
When you said that the drug take back was going to be on October 28th from 10 to 2, are they going to be stationed somewhere, or they bring the drugs here
To the police department, yeah.
Okay. And how will you get that information out to the residents that they could drop off their expired medication?
It's on Facebook. I mean, that's about the only it's on the radio. They're gonna be doing radio ads probably starting shortly. DA usually saturates the AM and FM radio with,
I'll take care of KJ&P for you this Saturday.
Have we contacted the Lions Club concerning the sign over Safeway?
oh, but I can.
I'm just kind of curious about that.
Like reader board?
Yeah, the reader board.
Good call.
Thank you. I'm on a roll.
Can't the clerk access that? Oh, that's the email.
Yeah.
You got a question? Ms. Welch?
All right, so final question here for my chief here before I get out of here. What are we doing also to make people aware in the community about, besides the Alice stuff, what are we doing to make the parents maybe aware of that it's not appropriate for them to have weapons in their vehicles when they come drop off the kids? Not out here, but doing duty at my station, I had somebody with a assault weapon sitting next to the child as he got out, and he kind of put his hand over top of it, and you kind of wonder if that's something maybe we need to put it out there a little bit more. If you absolutely have a weapon in your vehicle when you have to drop your child off, put it in the trunk, do something with it so that, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get his license because but I mentioned it to my principal and so on and so forth. And it's not the first time we've had people do stupid stuff like that. So I don't know what we can do, at least for out here. I don't know if it happens out here too, but.
And as far as North Pole High School, we get bulletins from the high school, and that kind of stuff is mentioned in those bulletins.
And
High school,
for parents.
yeah, for parents of all students. But the parents' responsibility to read those.
My generation.
Chief, I want to ask you something. If anyone else isn't finished here, I'm going to ask you, in your budget, because I keep harping on this, I would like to see the flashing radar sign. Do you have at least 2 of those in your budget for this year?
I do not.
Know why? I'm just going to ask you.
Well, because
You know, because we did studies with
yeah, there-
DOT and
yeah, I mean, there's so many competing, not that any one of them is more important than the other, but I mean, I take direction from the council, the mayor, and I try to manage my needs with the council's needs and the budget. So it's one of those moving things. Plus I can work with Public Works too on, making sure we get the permanent ones put in locations like Lake Drive and Homestead. In some of these areas we get people concerned about, and then maybe purchase a mobile,
one that
a
we can
mobile
move
one. And
around.
they're about 26,000, I think, last we checked.
they're less than that.
So,
They're much less. As a matter of fact, this is the time of year that they're on sale, if you can call them on sale.
yeah.
I think we could get 3 of them for that amount of money.
Hmm.
Yes.
And Jack, would it be possible just for him to go ahead and investigate that? So when it comes time for, council, then we can go ahead and talk about that.
The times of the
Yeah.
essence. We
Because
need-
then he can have time to investigate that and bring it to budget then. Or even at council at that point.
Will do.
Thank you, Chief. That's going to bring that to the floor. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you for your
Thank you.
excellent report tonight. And now we go, Miss Fogarty. What do you have for us?
It's 8:30 and we get to go home.
No? No, we don't.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And the last council meeting, I had done a administrative budget amendment, but did not report it to you because I don't know why. Anyway, I have 2 to report. The first one was for the police department. I had that one ready at last meeting. And basically, it's just within category to cover some expenses that they are possibly over or get close to being over on. And so you can see like the category is wages and benefits that has the 1 in there. The next category is 2, and that is professional services. And the category 3 is operational supplies. So this was for Steve, and on the side, you can see where if it's increasing or decreasing. So that's
I see 2 check marks on the first.
yeah, that was me. I entered this already.
So which one is it? Increase or decrease?
Well, it's gonna decrease wages on that top line
Okay.
and increase temporary overhire. And I think that the intention on that one was to cover the new part-time safety officer over,
Oh.
yes.
I'm sure the new members of the council will learn about our safety officer in the budget meetings on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, something we haven't had before.
Right, it's a new position for sure. And the next administrative budget amendment is 2304, so we've only done 4 thus far this year. And I think the first couple were for Public Works. And so this is Chad's request to do within category changes. And he has the same categories listed, with the exception of the final one is just a category that we call other. And it's just, he's moving money into miscellaneous expenses from equipment outlay. And this is a 2-pager.
Here it is, second. Anything else, Chris?
No, that just to iterate, this is done by code. We're allowed to do that and just report the changes that we've made. If it's between categories, that's where a fiscal note comes into play.
I'm looking forward to working with you tomorrow morning.
Mhm.
Did we agree on 10?
We did.
10 o'clock. I'll have
And-
coffee with you.
Okay.
And then we'll see where we're at, and then Chief Dutra and I will start. I've actually started with Danny Friday, but. I'll
Right,
start with
I was
Chief
there.
Dutra tomorrow.
I was there with Danny on
Yeah, no,
Friday.
good. And we'll start at 2:30 tomorrow. And then Chief Heineken, you get with me when you want to work with me. And who else do I have? That's it.
I think that's it.
That's it. We're ahead of the game, see? If you were in downtown Fairbanks, you'd be coming, I think, Jeff will explain that. Don't they come in at 7:30 in the morning, the finance committee meeting and stuff like that? Yeah, you don't have to do that. We do that for you here, so try to make it easy for you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Trish.
Thank you.
Questions for Tricia before we let her go? No, thank you
Okay.
very much. Appreciate it. So that means Chief Heineken, you're up. And that puts Button is on deck after Chief Heineken.
Good evening, council members, mayor.
Good evening, Chief.
So yeah, it's been a rough couple weeks since I last saw you. We did have a former employee, Captain Richard Hagan II, had passed away in his home on Wednesday, October the 4th. It was tragic news when we got the news. Richard worked he was a young man. He was just a week before his 39th birthday. And he had worked for the city of North Pole for over 14 years, from 2008 till mid 2022, this last year, when he left us. So we've been pretty busy, as you might have seen the procession and might have attended the services. We did hold full firefighters honors and ceremonies for his funeral on Saturday at Summit Church. I want to really express my gratitude to the police department for helping out with the procession. And then also to the Fairbanks Police Department, Captain Werner used his talents with his bagpipes, and that really makes an impact during the service. So really appreciate the law enforcement side of things supporting us in the fire service. And I definitely want to publicly acknowledge the rest of the fire service here in the interior and statewide. Actually, we had people from Anchorage up, but the interior fire departments reached out to us all immediately. And they were so much support for Richard's family and for us as a department. And the turnout on Saturday for the actual funeral was amazing. It was far more than I had ever expected. He truly was a loved man, and we are definitely gonna miss Richard. So yeah, on to more upbeat. The interior firefighters ball was planned for Saturday evening as well. So it was kind of a roller coaster of emotions for the day for me, I'll tell you that. The event is an annual ball that has been put on. It started years ago as the Eielson Firefighters Ball, and it grew into where all of the interior fire departments invaded and would go every year. So they finally decided, well, let's just make this an interior thing because everybody's participating anyways. So for many years, it's been the interior firefighters ball. We get together and it's a great time it's a formal event, formal dinner, to take your spouse, your loved ones, and go out and just, have a social event with the rest of the fire service. We take advantage of that opportunity every year to present the of the year awards, is what we call them, to the interior fire chiefs. And we do awards for, the different levels: firefighter, chief officer, company officer, prevention programs, those type of awards. And yeah, I was very surprised Saturday to hear my name called. I was awarded the Chief Officer of the Year award, which I was not expecting. I think there's others out there that deserve it more, that work harder than I do. But I humbly accept it, and I really look at it as a reflection on my fire department and on my staff. When the fire chief gets an award like that, there's no way, a fire chief can do that on their own. So my staff are reflected in that award for sure. Okay, next on my list is progress is being made on engine 25's repairs. We have all the parts that have finally arrived to get the pump put back together, and we've started reassembling that. I spent quite a bit of today actually on that. So we're hoping that it'll actually be back together and up and running sometime this week, possibly. And then from that point, we just can't put it into service. It's had major pump repairs, And annually, we do pump testing on all of our apparatus, and pump testing is significant. It takes a lot of time and a lot of water. It involves pumping at different pressures, different volumes for quite a bit of time, and we really put the pump through the stresses. So once it's back together, it'll be pump tested before it'll be able to be put back into service. So with winter weather, that makes it a little bit more difficult, but it'll happen. Once it does go back into service, we'll be able to finally finish up where we had decided what to do with our retired apparatus. Engine 24 will finally then be retired from North Pole Fire Department, and we'll be able to make that transfer to the city of Adelphi Junction. So I know they're excited, waiting for it, and with things getting cold, we're excited to free up the bay space that we just don't have room for that extra apparatus. What's next on my list? I want to give a big thank you to the Public Works personnel. Danny's guys at Public Works really stepped up to the plate. And it kind of happened under my level and his. My staff were over talking with his staff, and we've had a problem with the stairs into our training annex for years. In the wintertime, they get extremely slippery. They're a fall hazard, and we've known it was a problem, but every summer when the ice goes away, we forget about that problem and don't fix them. Well, as things started getting slippery, Captain McGilvery was over talking with their staff, and they came up with a plan, and the Public Works personnel over there are so talented. They were able to take down the old stairs, put up new ones using the grip strut material that, snow and ice can kind of pass through and give you good traction. So definitely a big safety improvement for our facility out there. So yeah, Danny, thank you for your staff. They did an amazing job. And the final thing I have for tonight is just a reminder about the senior class using our drill tower there to put together their haunted asylum. They were working on it hard on Saturday. They were in there all day Saturday. The students starting to get plans and things put together. So it really should be a good event. It should be a fun, scary event. And we encourage everybody to come out and participate. It'll be on October 27th and 28th, 5 to 9 p.m. And with that, I can take any questions.
Asylum,
That's what they're calling it. It's not a haunted house, it's a haunted asylum.
haunted asylum.
That's
Do
what-
we have to come in or do we leave crazy? How do we get there and how do we get out?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's what I like. Questions? Yeah,
Yes,
27.
27th and 28th,
What time to what time?
5 to 9.
5 to 9. Who's got questions or comments for Chief? Congratulations, Chief.
Congratulations, yeah.
Very
Thank you.
well deserved, yeah.
Thank you very much.
And so I'll speak more in closing comments about what we did Saturday, okay? Is that all right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, let's see where we go next. So I need to turn to my clerks. That we have 2 of them now. I don't know how they choose who goes, if they arm wrestle or what. It seems to work for the fire department, police department, but who's going to go?
I have notes. Melissa gave me some notes as well.
Okay,
Since the last meeting, we've been wrapping up from the last meeting. We had the election, so we've been doing wrap up from the election. We have new council members, travel scheduled for AML and Anchorage. Since the last meeting, all employees that have been here past 30 days have passed the training, all the required training. I have not finished the required training. I'm still within my window. Other than that, Melissa, anything else? Welcome new members. Thank you for your patience with me this evening.
any questions of Emily or Melissa? Any comments? You're doing good so far. Anybody could follow me on a proclamation for Dick Olson did pretty good. I bet you learned a lot about the KJMP though, didn't you?
Sure did.
Yeah, bet you didn't know all that was happening in our backyard all these years, so. Only one thing older than that, and that's not me. It's the city of North Pole. It's older than me, so I'm happy for that too. Now we go to our borough rep, Ms. Clack. What can you tell us on pages
Oh, I was the
15
borough
to
rep.
28?
That's right.
Hmm?
As far as the borough's rep is concerned, I pretty much discussed the ordinance and how, we are opposed of that. In the fact of mentioning some things that would be at issue, having lines for state and local, being able to separate our issues for state compared to the federal presidential elections. Had a chance since the borough election to reach out to a couple people in public to ask their thoughts on that. And some thought it would be a good idea till they heard that we would be in two lines. So they kind of didn't like that, which was also some of the concerns for the borough meeting that night. We mentioned talking about our charter and being able to change that and put it before the people. Was there anything else I might have left out?
I don't know. I was worried about what I was gonna say, so.
Yeah,
But,
but you covered pretty good,
oh yeah.
and I did too. So I
And
think
you think about the citizens who came out, what their.
there was a
concerns.
lot.
There was the one that really impacted me. You remember, she came all the way from the airport. She had never been to any of these things before, and she
Right.
felt compelled to come, drive from the airport straight there, be on the radio, to voice her opinion, which I thought was pretty great.
Yep, it was. And this was first time ever being in this public forum. So with that being said, hearing this on the radio, she came out to speak up on, she did not think that this was a good idea. The other person I was highly impressed with was a communicator who pointed out the communication level of not sharing with the city of North Pole and Fairbanks and the borough to, make this an even flow of how things were going to go if it was going to go take place. So with that being said, there were others that felt that looking at the transition and trying to get people to adjust to the voting, choice voting, and then having to go there and be in one building or one voting site to vote and possible two lines. If the lines were going to be longer, if they were going to be shorter, concern about our polls, extra equipment, which the borough's already bought. So there was a lot of issues. The other thing that I really was highly impressed with is we have 3 clerks from all 3 of these areas that work very smooth. We also have our people who put the voting together that sit there and greet each and every one of us when we come in to vote, and making that a stressful situation if we were to put it under one umbrella, which would be November the 2nd. How much harder that would be, especially if you're trying to help somebody who's trying to figure out what line they need to be in, or if the lines cross over, or making sure the ballots are in the right spot. Because I know for myself personally, if you have somebody out of their area and they're not really reading who's on the ballot for wherever you're voting, and then turn around and tell you you voted too many times, and you go put it away and find out that you voted like you're supposed to, and you have to go back and revote.
What date did you say in November?
They said the 2nd,
That
the 7th.
second,
Yes, yes, the 2nd, the 2nd,
second Tuesday.
2nd Tuesday.
Yeah,
Okay,
First Tuesday, November 7th.
okay. So I'm saying the 2nd.
Yeah,
So you're really saying the 2nd
it
week,
is the 7th.
the 7th.
Yeah,
Okay.
this year's the
So it's the
7th.
7th, okay. So with that being said, there was just a lot of concerned citizens looking at that, this would not be conducive to our lifestyle. One that was interesting was gas. To me, you live in Alaska. You go vote, you usually let your car run because you don't want to get in it cold. Doesn't matter if you're in the line for 5 minutes or if you're in line for 30. You just don't want to get in a cold car. So that was the other issue. Some other people that I talked to today said that their concern was not the gas issue, it was just having to be in 2 lines. They didn't think that that was a good thing, especially because they don't like to vote anyway. So to go and vote and have to be in 2 different lines on voting day for that issue was their other concern. So that's where we were at. And I think for everybody who spoke, they spoke on all the terms that we just spoke on now and what we heard that night.
Any questions from this class? Any concerns, Ms. Wells?
Not so much, something that you maybe could answer, but did anybody ever say anything, why it would have to be 2 lines? I mean, we vote city and borough, why not? Why can't we just keep going down the table? And then you end up with X amount of ballots and you as a voter sort it out. Were they talking about that, whether it was gonna be confusing to the
That
voters?
issue was brought up as far as confusion, okay? But you're talking about choice voting, then you're getting all these ballots, then you get ready to get back in line to pass them wherever you've got to pass them out. So what you're looking at, from my understanding, is how the lines would be and will you be in the right line, depending on where you're voting. In a smaller conducive place, or if it's gonna be, let's use UAF. If you're using the gym and stuff up there to vote, that's a bigger place. And in my past experience up there, there really wasn't that many voters. So you're able to go in, but look at it if you take on that bigger window of state, local, and federal. Okay? And you have not only the students that are in there, but you got everybody else from that area coming in there trying to vote. Now, some of us are early birds. Let's get in before 9, get it done, but so I can go home or go to work. And then you have some that have to wait till after 5. Okay. So now you're talking about 3 different areas of voting to get that part done, and then making sure you got all the right form. Then you're talking about somebody who's not even in that area, but they don't want to go over to their area because this is closer and I'm on my way to see a friend or go home or whatever. So they're out of precinct. So then they have to do all those other documents that they have to do. You're right. Okay. Then you got to make sure that gets in the right folder. Yeah, 4 times. So that's what you're looking at. So that plot wasn't actually thought out all the way, but good effort.
Let's say that Ms. Fogarty reminded me of something, because I'm usually the last person to vote. I do that on purpose. I kind of hang around to help out afterwards. But I think the Old Dominion machines that we had a problem where it kept rejecting like 15 of these things kept getting rejected. So you had to put it in and take it out, and they just kept spitting it back out at you. You never know there's going to be a hang up. So it could take a lot longer than we think. So is that it?
That's it.
Okay. So now we'll go on to item 10, ongoing project report. I'm only going to be very brief. We're working out the pieces of a puzzle right now to have a project manager for what we're trying to do with the combined heat and power. We haven't gotten there yet, and the person's working it out, what the knowledge, ability, skills, and others are to be project manager. And the next time we meet with our group will be, I think, the 23rd of October. Is that right, Dan? Tuesday, the 23rd will be the next time. So we should have something together by then. And if we're lucky and we've done our homework, we should have the power purchase agreement from Golden Valley by then too. So we're working the piece of the puzzle, but until we've got those where we're ready to define them, we'll just hold on to our cards. I see we have no item 11, no unfinished business. So let's move on. It's 44 past the hour, so let's go on to what we have. And that comes to under new business, we consented item A. So we go to item B, resolution 2316 to support continuing to hold our local elections in early October, pages 37 to 38. And the person I'm going to have when it's time to introduce this will be our pro tem, who actually is the author of this resolution. His wise guidance of 26 plus years as an elected official and what he's seen come and go help drive this factor. But I would ask Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up who wants to give comment to this from the citizens? Comment to this? Yes, if you do, please come forward and state your name We know who you are, Ms. Wilson, so you don't need to restate it, and we know where you live.
Still Tammy Wilson, WILSON, 571 Kenora. So I just want to correct a few of the facts.
Yeah.
First of all, Wasilla, the Matsu Borough does it, becomes difference of 44% of the people vote in the borough elections now versus what they were getting before was 18%. What they have seen, although, is down the off years, it goes back down to the original amount. So you can tell that the state and federal is what drives it. I don't think there'll be the confusion that they talked about that night was more for absentee. So I want absentee vote for the borough and I want absentee for the state. Federal, you would have to make sure that they got into the right envelopes. Because if you put them in the wrong envelope, they're going to go to the wrong places. The biggest concern we heard from Wasilla is what I know everybody has is how many election workers can you get, that now you basically have a double election. But for me, 21% voted at our local election. And I think Representative Tomaszewski said it best at the meeting. We had a room full of people and he turned around and he looked and he said, basically 5 people sitting in this room made a decision who is sitting up there right now. So really it was well thought out. It really is about voter turnout. We have tried all different ways, and I know y'all have too, of how do you get people to vote, right? It seems like you always have to make them mad. There's got to be a better way, but it seems to work better than anything else does. But I think the reason you have the 2 elections, it's not because of the ranked choice voting or the other, but that's state law at this point. They're the ones who set it up into municipal law. It's not that something that couldn't be changed at some point. But really, for me, it was that difference in percentages. Wouldn't it be nice if actually we had over 40%? Be nice if we had more than that versus more or less in the 20%. But obviously the state and the federal government. And one last thing, if it were to pass, I think the other thing that needs to be looked at is 4-year terms versus 3-year terms. Why we have elections every year, they're really expensive to be able to do that. And then you wouldn't have those off years. And I think you would always see those percentages stay above 40%. So it's really about voter turnout, try to get the community more involved. Somehow they want to do more on state and federal, and sadly enough, the borough and the city kind of end up on the side. But one last thing, Houston, Wasilla, and Palmer have all kept theirs in October, and they vote between 9% and 21%. And so that's really dismal at those elections. I didn't look back at all of them to see if those were always that number, but the cities decided to keep theirs the same, and I think that's the right of every city to determine. But I just want to kind of get on record that it was thought out and it was about voter turnout, and the numbers speak for themselves. Thank you.
Ms. Wilson, may I ask a question? Please help me. In your vast experience as an elected official or even campaigning or whatever, have you noticed a problem that we don't have a mechanism to remove somebody from the voter roll? So therefore, I say the percentage that we say is skewed because it's not real. I mean, just on my circle, are you aware that I have really living on my circle 6 people eligible to vote, but it still shows 15?
So there is a mechanism. Sadly enough, a lot of people don't know what that mechanism is. What you're supposed to really do, you're supposed to report when you move.
Mhm.
You're no longer a voter here. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't do it. The Division of Elections, when someone passes away, they do pay attention to obituaries and others, and they can remove it. And in the last few years, this was because of motor voters, that's what's made it more difficult. So what they started is that they send a notice, and if it gets returned back to sender, then there's a mechanism for them to be able to remove it. The sad thing is people just don't take advantage of that, because you're right. You can look at a household and see like 6 names and the last names are not the same. Likelihood is probably it's the previous owner as well as it's the other. So there are mechanisms, but the thing is, unless people really understand what they're supposed to do when they move or do something like that, unfortunately, they'll just go vote at the same precinct they did in the first house that they bought.
I think, does it make sense to you that for us to have 2,700 citizens, you really believe we have 1,900 of those eligible to vote? Because you have children and you have criminals, and you have a lot of people are not eligible. So you see where I'm going with that?
Well, it's just like, sir, you can have a speed limit out there, but if nobody follows it, it doesn't make it any less of a speed limit. Same thing. We have a mechanism and nobody uses it. It really kind of almost makes it irrelevant.
Thank you. Who has questions or concerns from this board? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. And I'm actually fine with the resolution. It never
Yeah.
was meant for the city to have to
Yeah.
do whatever the borough did. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I
Oh.
call a point of order before we move forward?
Please do.
I just need to get a, motion and a second to have that before it went on the floor. I should have called a point of order. I didn't want to interrupt Ms. Wilson.
Well, we're trying to see if you're a parliamentarian. Actually, we're not introducing it yet.
Oh.
So we're now gonna have it introduced. We're gonna ask for someone to introduce the resolution now.
Move to adopt resolution 2316.
Second,
So we're motioned and accepted resolution 2316. Mr. Jacobson, as you are the author, would you like to speak to this, sir?
Yes, I was quite shocked that the Borough Assembly took action without consulting with either the city of Fairbanks or the city of North Pole. And Tammy, shame on you. You're from North Pole and you didn't take the time to come talk to us and ask us questions. I'm disappointed. And it's been a really rocky road with the Assembly. We get told we can't speak, that we have to sit there and listen and not comment on stuff. And then you do this. It just adds insult to insult. We can be better than this. And, you know, I think it would have been a different tenor to this whole thing if there had been some talking about this, because if the borough goes through with this, we can't participate until November 2025, but you guys are going to be rocking and rolling in November 2024. And that could have been all avoided with some forethought on that. And that's what I take issue with, is that the borough likes to have area-wide powers, likes to take control of things and like to operate things, but then they forget about who their partners are in the whole matter. And we are a home rule city, and we are exercising our charter rights to set our own elections and not be influenced by what the Assembly wishes to do with their elections. All I have to say.
Anyone else want to discuss it? The only thing, if no other discussion, Ms. Welch,
I'd like to be added as co-sponsor.
we have other co-sponsors.
Yes.
Please, if you do, acknowledge to the clerk that you want to be a co-sponsor.
co-sponsor. Tongue twister, co-sponsor,
Co-sponsor.
co-sponsor, please.
Understood, Ms. Black.
Anton? John?
I'll be a co-sponsor.
Okay, I know you will, you wrote it. I'll co-sponsor.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Welch? Okay, I want to make sure, just for the record, so we have a unanimous that we're co-sponsor. And I'll ask, Mr. Jacobson, do you mind going down to the borough meeting on Thursday night? Because Ms. Clack and I've already had a bite of the apple. It was 5-hour long bite. Do you mind doing that Thursday night?
I do mind, but I will go there.
Thank you, you're a good man.
Mr.
right.
Jacobson, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Jacobson, I will also be there with you
Okay,
because I did speak with the chair.
sure, that'd be great.
Oh, he spoke with you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
He was really nice.
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, can we call the question?
On resolution 2316, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Cromer,
Yes.
Mr. Skips, Ms. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. Anyone wish to change their vote? I'm looking and I see none, so that's unanimous, 7-0. Thank you. Resolution 2316 is in the book. Now we go to resolution 2317. The resolution of the city of North Pole Council to designate our city officials authorized to sign on the city of North Pole accounts. You'll put that up, please, on page 39. Twenty-three seventeen, you see on page 39. You see the names of the people there. Okay. Someone like to introduce this resolution? I don't believe that there's anybody from the public here that wants to comment on it. They do, they can now.
Move the resolution 2317, a resolution of the North Pole City Council designating city officials authorizing to sign on the city of North Pole accounts.
Second.
Motion by Welch, seconded by Clark. Any discussion? I don't see any discussion. Call the question, please, Madam Clerk.
On 2317, Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Ms. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Cromer,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Ms. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. Anyone to change their vote? I don't see anyone changing their vote on this, so 2317 is in the books. It's there. Now we go to council comments. Who goes first, please? And
Can I,
we know who goes last and next to last, but go ahead.
Mr. Skips?
Yeah, I had it all thought of what I was gonna say. I just want to thank the two council members who are coming out, who are leaving, I should say, I guess. Thanks for all the support you did for the years you were here. And welcome the two new ones. Yep, we'll just leave it at that. I was gonna say something, but no. Just if you happen to be in Anchorage this weekend, Saturday, 21st at Service High School at 1 o'clock, Lathrop is gonna be playing Soldotna High School for the state championship. So Service High School, Saturday, 1 o'clock in Anchorage. That's all I have.
Madam Clerk, who's next?
Next we have Mr. Keller.
Roads are getting pretty slick. Make sure you pump the brakes, don't press on the gas, don't press on the brake. I saw a car fishtail for like a quarter of a mile down the highway. I was like, oh, what's this guy doing? So just let everything go except for the steering wheel and just coast. If you do find some slippery spots, Mr. Danny, can they call, what's the correct number for people to call if they have slippery spots in the road? Okay. 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 Okay, perfect. So yeah, I will direct that. What a wonderful time of the year. It's starting to go from warm and fuzzy to cold and snuggly. Comes a hope of Christmas, and what a wonderful time of the year that's coming up. I do wish the best to Mr. Cromer and Mrs. Welsh. Thank you for your time service with us and the city, and I'm looking forward to some good times with the new council members. So, yeah, with that, I adjourn.
You adjourn?
I do.
Next we have Ms. Clack.
I want to thank Mr. Cromer, Councilman Cromer, and Ms. Welsh for their time and service. I've really enjoyed my year with you guys. Taught me a few things. Some of them would say be quiet, but you know. And I want to thank our new clerk. He's doing an excellent job with our other clerk, who will sadly be missed. And congratulations to our new chairman, council people that are coming on board.
And next we have Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. Dijon, and I know I appreciate the 6 years that you have served on the council for your 2 terms. You've seen a lot happen in the last 6 years, and I just appreciate your setting the course and your level of service that you have given the residents and voters of our community. So thank you, and welcome Benny and Larry to the council. We look forward to working with you, especially as we jump into the budget work sessions. Just a couple of weeks, you'll kind of get to know the meat and potatoes of trying to balance the revenues against the expenses and the gyrations we all go through to make our dollars go as far as they can. I appreciate all the work that our departments do. Again, kudos to our chief of fire department for his being the 2023 chief of the year, and also the awards that our police department has received. I think the community survey was surprising in some of the information that came back, that it was really, people were very happy, I thought, about their community and what's going on here as their result of participating in that survey. So, I was very curious about what was going to be the turnout, and 160 participants, that's not bad at all. That's almost how many we have in some elections. So, for a survey, that I thought that was really outstanding. Again, it's only a snapshot, but it is, give you some direction there. So I appreciate that very much. And that's all I have to say. Thanks. Oh, welcome, Emily. Good to have you back again.
Thank you. I have a note. Mayor Welch, did you want to do comments before Mr.?
No, I don't. No,
Oh.
no. You go to the next council.
Ms. Welch,
No, go to the next council.
That's all.
Mr. Cromer and Ms. Welch?
Yeah.
I actually been on the council for 5 years. I took over for Santa Claus, I believe. I could have ran again, but I didn't want to be like Councilman Skips and do 8 years. That's way too long. I'd like to thank the head of departments. I've learned a lot from you guys, and learning the budgets and what you guys put forward to the community. It's been great to know all you guys, and it's nice to know people. I get to know you guys on the council. This is the best council that I've here for all the years I've been on the council. There's not like a lot of fighting, a lot of people doing going against each other. It's been very smooth on this council, and I really appreciate that. And I thank you guys. And I'm going to enjoy my Mondays, my Monday night football. I'm just, I'm gonna enjoy the time off, that's for sure. But thank you.
John, can you stand up, please? So I want to thank you. You recognize the hard work that you've done for the city of North Pole, for all your time and effort from 2018 to 2020.
I was waiting for him.
Okay, who's next?
Just to Ms. Welch.
All right. So, thank you also to all our staff here that's made this a very interesting 6 years. I'm happy that I was able to meet all of the people that I have had a chance to meet, learn all the stuff that I had to learn, and put it to good use. Even, having fun at the borough, being the borough rep. It's made a difference in learning what goes on in your community. Because from the very beginning of me becoming a citizen in this country, and all the way back in 1988 when I finally became a citizen, one of the things I've always said was that it was not only a right, but it was a duty to vote. And so voting for me stands very clear. I have missed one election, and it was a rerun election for something like a dog catcher or something like that in Atlanta. I mean, it was literally, it was not anything that was going to make any real difference. But I have not missed a single time to vote since I became a citizen. So for those people who are out there listening, exercise your right, but also do your duty at the same time. It is so important to do that and get involved with your community, because you can stand here and look at the people that are sitting on this council and saying, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Turn it around. When you're pointing fingers, remember there's at least three of them that point back at you. So you need to do what you do yourself. What can you do yourself? Like trying to get the neighborhood watch or something like that going to make sure you are safe. And other than that, Benny and Larry, take good care of this council, be productive members of it, and make your city greater. That's all I can say. Welcome to the rat race. Have some fun with it, and enjoy your time here, even though you might miss the Sunday night or Monday night football. Yeah, at least we have possibility to hit a record if that's what you need to do that. So thank you, everybody, for putting up with things and putting up with me and my rant sometimes. Appreciate it.
So now you, can stand. And I can tell you to stand. Stand, please. So, Ms. Ino, thank you for your hard work as well. All those long nights I couldn't get into my computer room because you were up there till 11:31 at night with the folks at the borough. And your dedication to our city, to our community, and everything from 2017. I dared her to do it, by the way. If you want to see what it's all about, you'll find out the hard way. Go get involved. All the way through 2023. That's 6 long years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on. I guess I get the closing comments again, right? That's
You do.
gets to adjourn, but I'm not going to just yet. So, I want to say something about, Richard Hagan too, but what I learned about the family of the fire service and the things that impressed me about being there. So I got to meet his family. That was important. I got to meet Big Richard and Richard Hagan too. He called himself Little Richard, his mother Deborah, his brother Michael, his sister Lisa and Rachel. And, this was an abrupt thing for them to see this happen just days before his 39th birthday. But all that said and done, anybody who was there came to realize not just Richard Hagan II or his father or whatever, you realize this was a huge family, a huge profession that came together to recognize one of theirs who probably left a little bit too early, left us with great memories. He taught people really well. He made us the type of professional fire department. We are a world-class fire department. As I'm looking at Benny out there, he wants to get on board. And that was one of the first places I went when I was a rookie councilman, sitting between Mayor Jacobson and soon to be Mayor Isaacson, was to go over and see the people in the fire department. And I reminded AJ Hamlin, get to know those people while you're at it over there. But I'm reminded him that I was sitting over here Christmas night, and I had made a promise that I would work with every department within my first 100 days. So I had nothing better to do Christmas night than go over there and bother them. But when I went there, I learned about each and every one of those people on AJ's team, but also stayed to see the relief the next morning. If you try to do that today, you wouldn't get to do that, would you, Chief? Because they're working 48-hour shifts now? Yeah, you have to plan it just right, or you could be there for a couple of days instead. But I was very impressed about the professionalism of it, and it made me think, towards the lines of in the federal government, three big professions in the feds are federal firefighters, federal law enforcement, and federal air traffic controllers, of which I was one for 35 years. And so you realize we all have special callings. We have special, I use the word vocation, voca in Latin. It means to be called. You have to answer something in your inner self to want to go out and give the very best for your fellow man, for your community, to be a firefighter, a police officer, even an air traffic controller, believe it or not. So that's one of the things I was impressed with that body and those families that I was happy to be a part of. And it was great to sit back and listen to them be able to talk about it. I look at things in such a way as I'm getting older, and I like being in what I'll call the nonpartisan world. I like being right down the middle of the road, trying to do the most that you can on both sides of the fence, or all sides of the fence for that matter, trying to get the most for my community. And you can't do that really half the time anymore in partisan politics. And one thing I hope our 2 new members of the council will learn, as the departing members have learned all too well, just as hard as it is to get someone to come out and vote, it's just that hard, if not more so, to get somebody to run for office. That's the best thing you can do is try to go out. You may say, I'm a rookie, but try to go out and mentor somebody else. So that when you finally said, hey, I don't know what I was buying into, but before you leave, get somebody else to come in too. I mean, that's where we're at right now. It's easy to say that, it's hard to do. I want you to know it's very hard to do. We have things that get in our way. Usually our egos get in the way. Mine most importantly does. So do the best you can. And when you have a question, just ask it. We have talent here, our staff, our directors, even our clerks, right? So use them for what they're here for because believe it or not, they work for you. So I'll say with that, it's 11 past the big hour of 9 o'clock and I'll ask for someone to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Motion to adjourn is accepted at 9:11. Thank you.
I hope I didn't smash his cake. Add to it.
Yeah, that's the one thing they don't want you to do. Is
Okay.
made it.
Take care of
So,
it.
that was a big thing. Trying to cover it out. So we got together and we wrote down, and all the